Yes, folks, the final leg of the event. We have a completely different format to end our 2 days with. Two sit-down interviews with two high-profile heroes of Pakistan. Let's begin the first one. We will be in conversation with Wasim Akram, the former cricket captain of Pakistan, spoken to by Syed Waqar-ul-Islam.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. The world of sports and the world of business has always fascinated me. I think there are a lot of parallels between the two fields, and a lot of time we don't seem to realize that. And in sports, I think cricket is possibly the closest to the world of business, because in cricket, there is this team element, but then there is a very strong element of visible, distinct individual performance which needs to come into play in order for the teams to succeed. And that's why individuals are very well recognized in this sport. In cricket, you fall, you get up. In cricket, you have success, you have failures. In cricket, you must know how to handle the boom. And in cricket, you must also know and learn how to handle when you are down. And interestingly, and all these things happen, by the way, in business as well. Interestingly, in cricket, in my view, everything happens in 45 seconds. From the time a bowler bowls a delivery or a batsman faces a ball to the time he bowls the next delivery, imagine the kind of things that goes in his mind. If he has bowled a bad delivery, he has to correct his mistake. He has to plan for the next ball. He has to realize what the other person, which is the batsman, is going to do. His plan has to be there, plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, whatever. And then in the next 45 to 50 seconds, he has to execute his plan as well. So everything more or less happens in a matter of 45 seconds. What we will try and do in the next 45 minutes is to learn various aspects of these 45 seconds and see if we can relate it to the business world and see if we can relate the learnings to the business world. And I thought, who better to tell us about these 45 seconds than someone who had 40,813 45 seconds in his international career, right? Then someone who knew after those 45 seconds 916 times how to celebrate a success. Then someone who had the patience, despite being the best in the world, who had the patience to wait almost 45 deliveries before achieving the next success. That's someone who can be none other than Wasim Akram.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Wasim. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Maybe your introductory comment, and then we start the journey of this 45 seconds.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. I'm honored to be amongst the corporate world of Pakistan. I can see quite a few familiar faces, and I think it's a big honor for me to tell my story, my struggle, my experiences in this beautiful game of cricket.
Thank you, Wasim. So my role will be to take Wasim's answers and try and relate to the business world so that when each one of us leave this room, we should go back thinking we did not just listen to the legend, we learned from the legend as well. So that's how we'll run the show. And Wasim, let me give you the first scenario.
Yep.
Right? You've done good preparation. You are in good form. You've made a plan. And you bowl a terrible ball, and you are hit for a 6. You've let your team down, you've let yourself down, and you have next 45 seconds to correct everything and bowl the next delivery. What goes in your mind? And since you are a commentator as well, maybe if you can do it in a commentary format, that would be even better.
Let me think. You see, I retired about 14, 15 years ago, so I don't remember now. But let me go back. I got hit for sixes quite a few times in my career, yes. But fortunately, most of the time, they weren't very important and crucial stage of the game. But I think what I've learned with my bowling when I got when I had experience when I was about 22, 23 onwards, that to come back strong and never to repeat my mistake. You know, I believe everybody they do make mistakes. But next time not to do the same. And that's what I've learned with my bowling. And I always plan in those, I mean, my run-up was shorter, so mine probably wasn't 45 seconds, but more or less, mine was 17 steps. So I had to plan everything. If it's a one-day cricket, it depends on a situation or a scenario. One-day cricket, if opposition need 4 to win, last ball to go, you need to have 3 plans. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C from the place you delivered the ball and the place you're going to walk back, about 17 steps. And I think that's why I evolved as a bowler very young age, because I started these plans beforehand, planning beforehand. If that happens, if batsman give me a room, I'm going to follow him. Plan A, Plan B is if he's going across, I'm going to bowl a slow delivery. And then obviously there's a Plan C as well. Just go for the bullseye, go for the stumps. So, but I'm always positive. I never had two minds, whatever I did in my bowling. If I ran in for a yorker, 99% I bowled that particular delivery. And again, I also used to visualize as well. I mean, I've done about 6, 7 hat tricks altogether, 4 internationally. So that's the hat trick delivery is the most difficult delivery, because there's a lot of pressure on you as a bowler, as you're excited. And if it's a pack house, so you can imagine the noise, the roar. You run in, you visualize, okay, this is I'm going to do. Obviously, you're going to read the batsman as well. If it's a new batsman, then it's much easier because he's under more pressure than myself. So stuff like that. So the little techniques I've learned early on in my career.
Okay, and since Wasim mentioned the hat trick, just for everyone to know in case some of you don't, he's the only bowler in the world till date to have taken 4 hat tricks in international cricket.
Let me correct you.
Okay.
Yesterday, Malinga took the 4th international hat trick.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So now
that happened yesterday. I just found out today myself.
Yeah. I was asking Asfar to do this session one day before.
Yeah.
Okay, and just like, you heard Wasim, in business as well, there is planning. And you heard how he used to plan. In business as well, you make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and we do too. But you must learn from those mistakes so that you don't make the same mistake again. In business as well, you should have plan A, plan B, plan C. But something very interesting Wasim spoke about, I will always be positive, go for the bullseye. Go for the win, go for the kill. And that's what you do in business as well. And in business, you have competition too, which is a batsman in his case.
I'm sure everybody knows, if you have doubt in your mind, most of the time that thing will happen. So the idea is to train your mind that you have less doubts. Yeah. And obviously, you'll do a lot more positive things.
Yeah. And Wasim, I want to ask, so in these 45 seconds, of course, you are thinking about your skill, right? And how to bowl, etc. But since you've bowled a bad ball, it's also about how tough you are mentally to come back strong.
Yeah.
How would you handle the mental stress of bowling a bad ball and coming back and doing well?
I always believed in myself because I worked very hard. I planned everything. I was, a lot of people, when I started playing cricket for Pakistan, my mentor, Imran Khan, I call him Skipper, he told me that I had talent. I was 17, I didn't know what it meant. I had talent. And then I realized after about 6 months to a year that I can play the game, but if I have to prolong that talent for 15 to 20 years, I have to work hard. And day in, day out, sweat it out, training. And luckily, I have very good mentors early on in my career, people like Imran Khan, Javed Miadad, Mudassar Nazar. I learned a lot from them on and off the field. Off the field was more fun though.
We'll not go into details on that. Corporate people somehow don't like these things.
They don't like fun? That can't be right.
Yeah. They like fun, they don't want to talk about it. Just moving on. And again, you heard Wasim saying that it's not just about your skill, it's about how you manage your temperament to be successful in life. And those 45 seconds are incredibly important to be mentally tough. And exactly the same happens in business. Sometimes you have bad days, and you must learn how to handle yourself so that next day is a better day. Let's change the, let me give you a new scenario and see how you do. Now you've taken a wicket, one of your 916 wickets, right? You are on top of the world. You can get overwhelmed, you can get overawed, you can get overconfident, and you have a new batsman in play. Now what happens in these 45 seconds?
Nothing, you plan it, you think about it because you're excited, you got a couple of wickets and a couple of deliveries, you got to have control, you got to have aggression, but control aggression. Focus. And that's what I've learned, again, very early in my career from my mentors, played around with them quite a bit for 5-6 years, that you got to have a tunnel vision. And obviously, most of the time in cricket, I can only relate to the game I played for 20 years professionally, that when I ran into bowl, if I was about to bowl an in-swing, I visualize it for a split second, I'll pitch it there, it'll nip back and it'll hit the pads or the off stump. And quite a few times it actually happened because back of the mind, the belief was there, the hard work I put in years and years before. It wasn't just 1 net, 2 net, 3 nets. It was every day. There was no day off for me. I mean, nowadays, people, when we see our cricketers, not especially our cricketers, but cricketers, when you tell them take some time off, they just go off and start eating biryanis, niharis, and come back, huge. But for me, time off means time off from cricket, not from my training. Training has to be there. You can't, at prime of your career, top of the ladder, you can't just take a month off doing nothing. You'll fall back. So I suppose that was my mantra.
And how would you handle the confidence of being successful and not make a mistake of being overconfident? How did that happen?
Believe me, I made a lot of mistakes when I was young, like any other one, and I still do, but I learn from them and I try not to repeat them. I did play, for instance, I'll give you an example, the 92 World Cup final. It's just the 25th anniversary of it now. Jesus, I feel old now. So 92 World Cup, when I came into bowl, the second delivery to Lewis, I think I've got, the plan was with my captain Imran and Javed Bhai, the senior players, what should I do? I was aiming to bowl a yorker from around the wicket, the ball was swinging. So Imran said, look, this guy will be expecting that delivery, he'll be on a front foot, let's try a length in swing. So suddenly my mind clicked and I said, okay, this is the delivery I got to bowl. And that was that was the focus I had. There was no other focus when I was running, I sprinted in. That this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pitch outside off stump. It's going to nip back about 3 to 4 inches. It's going to clip his off stump. And luckily it happened. But it happened quite a few occasions as well after that. Then I realized belief actually matters.
There are 2 or 3 sides that purely from my viewpoint, I can never get tired of watching. One is having a plane take off. The other is a bowler getting somebody bowled, a fast bowler getting your wicket going cartwheeling. And the third, and I say it with a lot of pride, is those 2 deliveries of 1992 World Cup that Wasim Akram bowled.
Thank you.
One more scenario. Again, stick to 45 seconds and you're doing great.
Yeah.
Right. You're doing everything right. Your form is good, you're bowling well, but you have a batsman who just doesn't give up.
Yeah.
He would still hit your good balls for 4s, 6s, would block you with, middle of the bat, and you just don't know what to do now. And you are at sea. Now what happens?
Nothing. Yes, that's a very valid question. Then you come to plan B, and that for me would be if batsman is not giving his wicket away, he's got a solid defense, and he's punishing the bad deliveries, I would contain. I'll play safe. And at times, if it's a one-day cricket, last over is set batsman there, I will bowl a leg side slow ball. Such delivery that he'll take a single. And I'll bowl the other batsman who's just new on the crease. So that's what I did with these, these little tricks I did with my mind. And what happens when you contain, and if it doesn't matter if you don't get wickets, in the end, when you see your bowling analysis, 20 overs, 45 for none, looks better instead of 20 overs, 100 for none.
Well done. And in business as well, if we think about it, because Wasim talked about something very interesting. Of course, in business as well, you have good times. And in good times, your mind works in a different way. And then you have bad times, or you have tough times. You go for consolidation, you go for plan B, you go for containment. If we heard the first response Wasim gave, where he said, I'm always positive, looking to take wickets. But when it is not working out, sometimes you have to consolidate. Sometimes you have to fall back. Sometimes containment may be a more aggressive strategy rather than just taking wickets. So now let me move to another aspect of your life, which is you are a skipper. You are a captain.
Yeah, I believe he's the guest speaker after me.
Right.
Excellent.
Right. And those of you, because Wasim is more known for being the greatest all-rounder the world has seen, or amongst the greatest, definitely the greatest left-arm all-rounder the world has seen. But people do not know that his win record in international cricket is 58%. He captained 134 times national team in international cricket and had a 58% win track record. So he's been an outstanding skipper as well, besides, of course, the guy who's coming next.
Yeah.
So now, again, you have a plan as a skipper, as a captain, but your bowlers are not bowling to the plan.
Sure.
And again, you have 45 seconds, you are standing on mid-off or mid-on. What goes in your mind? Do you start doing micromanagement? Do you stick to the vision that you had in the beginning? Do you look at the big picture? Or you say, I don't care about these 45 seconds?
No, I used to give them very simple plans. Because in our culture, less is more. You know, when Pakistan team is, obviously we have a foreign coach. Usually, whoever foreign coach comes to, not to Pakistan team, but in PSL, Dean Jones came in Kolkata Knight Riders, I was with Trevor Bayliss. And I told them one thing. I said, in our culture, especially the sportsmen, our attention span is like a sparrow. I mean, if the meeting is for 15 minutes, if we gone to 16th minute, they'll forget the first 15 minutes. So make sure you tell them simple plans, plan A to plan B to plan C, and give them a bit of confidence. And as a leader, as a captain, your body language always should be positive. Because you believe it or you're not, while you're on the field or even in the the corporate world, everyone look up to the boss or the captain or the leader. That what sort of body language is he? Is he positive? Is he in good mood? Is he in a good mood? He's not down or he's not depressed or he's a bit negative. Then that rubs off from you to your teammates.
Excellent. And again, exactly like Wasim said, it's the same in business world as well. If in the business world, imagine a leader is down on a particular day when the business is also down and when the customers are shouting, the whole business can come crumbling down. So leaders have a completely different role. While they need to stick to the vision, they also know when to micromanage, when to let it be, when to let things flow the way they are. Wasim, I now, we've done enough of 45 seconds.
Yeah.
I now want to move to the next aspect of your, say, a different life, right? In our world, possibly in any world, out of sight is out of mind.
Yeah.
Right? You left cricket now, what, 15, 16 years ago?
Almost.
And you're still a top brand. How did that happen?
It's got to do with some planning. Everything has to be planned. Nothing comes, वो कहते हैं ना कि अल्लाह रिस्क देने वाला है. अल्लाह रिस्क उनको देता है जो आप मेहनत करते हैं तो he helps it out. अपने आप, मैं कहता हूँ अपने आप ऊपर से तो अब पराठे, मेरा मतलब बारिश ही होती है, पराठों की बारिश तो होने से रही. So that's what I believed in. So the year I was retiring in 2003 World Cup in South Africa, I started having negotiations with ESPN Star. I knew the only thing I know after cricket is cricket. Either it's coaching, or either it could be behind the mic. And I'm not a coaching sort. I don't have enough patience to do coaching. Mentoring is easy. You just dedicate and tell people what to do and just sit, do nothing. Coaching is tough. So I realized commentating is the next best thing to do. The game itself I knew inside out because I played it for so long. And then television, of course, is a different medium altogether. So that's why I went to 3 months to Singapore at ESPN Star's office, learned editing, presenting, script writing, and then straight away they started me on presenting Sports Center, and that too with teleprompter and in Roman Hindi, not even in Urdu. So straight away live. So obviously I messed up quite a bit for first week, and then I got the hang of it. And now it has been now 15 years I've been working. I planned it, that I will do this, whatever I'm doing.
And two things are coming out from I think Wasim's talk. One is there's absolutely no shortcut to hard work. You have to work hard. And the second thing that Wasim just said, but not just now in this part of his career, but even in earlier one, you have to use your brain while you're working hard. Both things need to go together. It's not mutually exclusive to each other. They need to go together. One other thing, Wasim, I read that when you were 30, you lost 8 kg. And you thought it's attributed to your hard work, right?
Yeah.
And but your family was getting concerned, and more or less your family pushed you to go get yourself tested.
Yeah.
And they found out that you have diabetes.
Yeah.
How tough it was, and how did you handle the whole thing? Because a lot of corporate people go through stress, and they don't know what to do then. And the moment they go to a doctor and they learn they have a disease, they think everything is over. Whereas you played...
Or to appear.
Exactly. Whereas you played for 6 years after you found that, and possibly some of the top cricket you played was after this. So how did this whole thing happen, how you came out of it, and how you even became an ambassador?
I got diagnosed when I was 29 in 1997. That was almost 21 years ago. I was peak of my cricketing career. Fit, training every day, playing cricket, played the West Indies series, I think got man of the series. And I was losing weight and getting thinner. I thought it's my training. But eventually I started getting tired and sleepy and hungry and, lethargic. And my dad took me to the doctor. They checked my blood sugar levels. They were sky high. So he said, you got diabetes. I was shocked because the only thing diabetes was either it's weight, type 2, that's due to over 40, lifestyle, overweight, food intake. And I related diabetes to, old age. So it took me about 6-8 months to get back my senses. I realized one thing there, and then one thing I want to do, I want to play cricket. I can't just retire at the peak of my career because I just got diagnosed as a diabetic. My late wife, Huma, she helped me a lot. She was a psychologist. Then I read about the disease. I realized if I control, I discipline my life, things will get better. And all the myths in our part of the world, developing countries, there are a lot of myths about things. I proved all the myths wrong being a diabetic for 21 years. First year was very tough because my sugar levels were, up and down, up and down. And I couldn't expect that I have to take 3-4 jabs a day for all my life. But eventually I disciplined myself. I started checking my sugar levels. I realized, during the lunch session, if we are bowling after lunch, my insulin intake was lesser than before normal intake. So I learned these little tricks on the way. But it took me a couple of years. And mashallah, touch wood, I'm 50 now. Just had a baby girl. She's 2 years old. So things are going well. and again, it's a lifestyle. Doesn't matter where I'm in the world. I wake up at about 6:37 in the morning because I go to bed early. And I do my running. I go outdoors. I love outdoors. Doesn't matter where kahin bhi duniya mein main hoon. Timing ka difference bhi nahi, but I'm up early morning. I do this 7 days a week, 6 days a week, all year round. So, this is my routine, and that's, I think, is a success of my diabetes control.
Excellent. And you know, and another thing, and same exactly with the business world, excellence and discipline do not happen by coincidence. They need to be lifestyle. Only then you become Wasim Akram. Otherwise you can't, right? Wasim, you know, if you have your life written all over it again, you go back to 18, 19-year-old, Javed Miandad spots you again, and you come into the international scene. What are few things you will do different as a sportsman that possibly you shouldn't have done, or you could have done better? Anything that comes to your mind?
I think I'm content what I did on the cricket field. I think I would have probably concentrated on the batting a lot more. Imran, skipper, always told me, you know, you don't concentrate on your batting as much. But I knew what I want. I knew that I wanted to be a bowler who can bat a bit. Because if I would have concentrated on a batting, my bowling would have been affected, and I enjoyed bowling too much. And what also helped me while learning different cultures, I joined Lancashire in 1988. I was 20 years old, not knowing that culture, and arrived there. First night from West Indies. My manager picked me up from Heathrow, took me to Nottingham, a Forte Post House hotel. Those days hotels were really bad. And I had to share a room with some random person. And it happened to be Ian Austin, who was about 20 stones, typical British cricketer. Very good friend of mine. But, you know, I realized there and then, you know, I want to learn this culture. I don't want to make any Pakistani friends in Manchester. I said, I have Pakistani friends in Pakistan. I will spend day in, day night with these guys, and I really enjoyed it. After first month or so, I'm still friendly with them. I still have a place in Cheshire, just outside Manchester. I still meet all my colleagues I played with or played against, mostly Neil Fairbrother, Flintoff, Michael Atherton, all these lanky boys. So that also evolved me as a person. Playing 1 year for Lancashire in '88, and the next in '89, I became the #1 bowler in the world, because that 6 month playing day in, day out, living on my own, getting responsibility. I had to wash my own clothes, organize my own breakfast, lunch, dinner, and drive the car without the sat-nav. Imagine, I got lost everywhere first 2 years. I used to hire a cab. I'll follow you. Please drop me there.
While Wasim is humble about his batting, but just for everyone to know, and again, in case you don't know, he's the only #8 batsman in the world till date to have scored 257 runs. Nobody else.
Hey. That I'm proud of.
And how do you rate yourself? You think you've been the greatest left-arm fast bowler ever, no doubt. But how do you compare yourself, you be as a bowler, or as a bowling all-rounder, or as a skipper, or as a captain?
Very difficult question. You know, as a bowler, well, I can say one thing. I enjoyed every bit of it, whatever I did for Pakistan. It was a dream come true. I came from nowhere. I used to play on the streets, got picked up. It was a total fluke. Then got wickets, maybe total fluke. Then I realized this is fun. I'm getting paid to play sport that I love. And then I said, and then I started first tour. I realized myself at the age of 17 that this tour was fun. It was in New Zealand, enjoyed it. I realized this is fun, getting paid, best hotels, packed stadiums, people are watching cricket. I said this should go on for at least 15 to 20 years. That was my goal on the first week of that tour. And then obviously when you have higher goals, you work according to that. If you have, say, if you think yourself, okay, I'll finish up 4th, 5th, you probably finish up 10th, or maybe less. So if you finish the top, at least you'll finish 2nd or 3rd. Yeah. That's what I did at the very young age, at 17. Nobody taught me that. I learned it myself. But along the way, I found very good mentors, and that helped.
Yeah. And you know, one more thing I think Wasim has alluded to in a very strong way is the moment you achieve your first goal, set the next one.
Yeah.
You can't relax. And isn't that the same in business? Exactly the same in business. Leaders set goals, achieve it. The moment they achieve it, they raise the bar. and take the team along with them as well, and take peers and others along with them. Was after Wasim, a battery of left-arm bowlers, fast bowlers has come into this country. And while everyone talks about Wasim's legacy for, 916 wickets, etc., I think his legacy is these batteries of bowlers that have come into this to this country, and they continue to come in following him.
And I always tell these young cricketers who come into Pakistan team or PSL, I tell them whatever you did yesterday, that's history. And nowadays cricket, it's so much cricket, I suppose say in the corporate world, so much cricket is happening, nobody's going to remember what you did yesterday. Today is the day. Today is the day, live in present. Forget what happened yesterday, what you did yesterday. It's a new day, it's a new game. Start again. And that's how you should motivate yourself.
Brilliant. I mean, you can't live in the past.
Yep.
You only learn from the past. You live the present. Present, in any case, is a gift. That's why it's called present. And you plan for the future. And that's what Wasim did. One more stat just for everyone to know. He's also the first bowler ever to have taken 500 wickets in one-day international. And
Thank you.
And till date, there are only 2 bowlers who have done that, who have achieved that feat. The other one is Muttiah Muralidharan of Sri Lanka. I will open the floors for questions. Few questions. We have exactly 10 to 15 minutes, so not too many. Please raise your hand. I will let the people know where to go and who to give the mic. Do we have mics?
Thank you. I am a retired Brigadier Amir Yaqoob. Actually, in my profession, they preach, don't just work hard, work smart. And I don't know how far this would be important in your career, but I'm sure it should be. The lesson to learn from here is probably that only working hard may not suffice. You will need a mentor in your life who can then steer you in the right direction.
Yep.
So, do you think that this kind of approach would work in your scenarios?
Like I mentioned, my mentor in obviously bowling was Imran, my skipper, and he taught me how to work hard, what sort of training I required, what sort of mindset I require, what sort of drills I should do early on. Be absolutely spot on. You work hard, but you plan your hard work according to that. You can't just run every day 10K and then say after a week my body is tired. Obviously body will be tired. You need a day off after a couple of days. Stuff like that. You need to bowl certain amount of overs in nets. Next day maybe no bowling, maybe a lot more batting. These techniques I learned from Imran and Miyadad and all these guys.
Yeah, and since I'm a student of management, so always there is a theory that came in, it says work hard. Then the second theory came, then no, don't work hard, work smart. And like always, there is always a third theory, which said work hard and smart. Right? Ji sir.
Raza Khan from PTU World, special correspondent. We've seen you grow up from the late 80s and develop into a world-class bowler. But somehow, after the 92 when Imran left and you took over after Miyadad, what exactly was the transformation that you had to ensure to instill inspiration amongst your players, because first you were equal amongst them and then suddenly you were put into this leadership position. Take us back to your feelings when you were going to South Africa. That was perhaps your first series as a leader. Yeah. And Pakistan, West Indies were there as well as South Africa was there. Take us back and share with us your thoughts on transformation from a player to a leader and captain.
It was a big, massive job. I was only 24 when they announced me as a captain. No prior experience captained any side, neither in first-class cricket, in club cricket. And they sacked Javed Bhai out of the blue, and they offered me the captaincy. And obviously, you can't say no when somebody, you got such a big job of representing your country as a skipper. It was tough to start off with because leadership also kind of is a, I believe there is no born leader, especially in cricket. Because cricket is such a game where leadership requires a lot, especially when you're bowling. Every split second you have to make your own decision. You can't ask any advice from anyone around you because you don't have enough time. It's there and then who should bowl, what sort of field setting, what is the batsman doing. It took me about a year and a half to learn as a leader that what is required You know, I believe action speaks more than words. And the leader in general, I've learned, the leader is who knows the way, goes the way, and of course shows the way. And I think that's what I've learned and after 2 years when my second stint in 95, 96, I was a much better captain because I knew how to handle the press, I was calmer, I knew how to handle my cricket, I knew how to manage the boys. Because at 90s, Pakistani boys weren't very, they weren't easy cookies. They were hard nuts and they were different, it was like, मैं 11 बीवियों के साथ जा रहा हूँ बस पे, आपस में लड़ी रहती थी सारी.
Wasim, more or less on similar lines, I want to ask one more question before I go to the next one. Your personality has undergone serious transformation. And many cricketers, and all the respect for all of them, they stay cricketer. And of course they should, because they are known for their cricket, not necessarily how they dress or how they speak, etc. But you decided to also transform your personality into an ambassadorial personality, if you like. How did that journey happen? Because you came with a very different background, did not know how to carry yourself.
I was first year of my college. Luckily, I got picked up for Pakistan team. I was a very average student. Every student in a way, my concentration wasn't there. I always wanted to play cricket in the end. So I was in a very good college, Islamia College Civil Lines, because on my cricket ability, not on my kind of numbers ability. I was a very average student. But, I always wanted to learn. Because like I said, my hero was Imran Khan. So I wanted to be like him. Yeah. So I had, he had head start of 13 years, Imran, and Oxford and, Worcester Grammar School. So then my late wife, Huma, also was a great help. He started me reading. I read a lot still. And I know, I kind of follow everything around the world, whatever is happening. I'm not naive. And I'm happy with myself because I'm still learning. And I still, meeting companies like this, I do enjoy because I learn a lot from people like you guys. You guys are also inspiration for me. I take inspiration from different things in life, everything for me. When I see something new, I enjoy. I enjoy going out, I enjoy nature, I enjoy kind of healthy lifestyle because I had my party bit. So now it's my time to relax and enjoy and have early nights.
And learning is a journey. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Wasim. I am Kaisar Rashid and working for Sanofi, which is a French pharmaceutical company. Wasim, you are a role model and no doubt a legend for Pakistan. What you are currently doing for Pakistan cricket?
What I am doing for Pakistan cricket? This is a very same question I get asked by a lot of people on social media. What I am doing? What can I do sitting in my home? I have to be asked. Simple. I'm available. Ask my help. Give me a plan and I will execute that plan. I don't believe in random stuff. Somebody calls, random call, चलें जी ये कर लें आज. वो एक आमद होती है ना हमारे यहाँ, प्लानिंग तो होती नहीं है. जैसे शायरों की आमद नहीं होती, पीसी में भी आमद ही होती है. चलो जी आज ये कर लें. No planning. मुझे कहें जी हम आपको, we are giving you say youth, about 20 bowlers, you're in Pakistan for a month, just train them and I'll train them. But it very rarely happens. I've done 2-3 camps for Pakistan. And I think Amir was my first camp. Then Suhail, Tanveer, all these guys, Wahab, they were in second camp. And then the third camp, Usme, Imran Khan, Suhail Khan, they were all there. The boys want to learn. They're very, very eager. And I want to teach them. But there has to be a certain, protocol.
So let me go to this side of the hall and I'll take question from there. Yes, sir. Back to you.
I work for an IT company. Wasim, 2 questions. We all talk about successes, but I would like to hear from you from the 1999 World Cup. What was your key learning from that defeat in the final, which helped you in future? And the second thing is looking at the current PSL. We're all very happy about it. If you were to pick 2 bets for future for Pakistan, from the current PSL, emerging player, what they would be?
The first question, 99 World Cup, big loss, losing the final, that too without any fight, was obviously very painful. Still is painful. As a player, as a captain, I don't mind losing as long as we fight till the last ball. But the decision was unanimous because in the whole tournament we won the toss. Our strength was to defend because our bowling was much better than our batting, especially in England on those pitches and under those conditions. So we won the toss, although it rained a couple of days ago. Wicket looked okay. It wasn't, demons in that pitch at all. Won the toss, batted. We 50 odd for 2 in 10 overs, and then we collapsed. So there was a kind of no lesson to learn from that final, apart from being very, very painful. There was lesson that we did a decision, and I stick to it, that yes, we won the toss, it was unanimous, and we batted because bowling was our strength. अब वो चिड़ियाँ चुग गई खेत तो बाकी क्या कहेगा if अगर बैटिंग कर लेते तो क्या होता but वही कहते हैं ना अगर पुप्पी को मूछे होती तो चचा कहते that's not the case.
And the second question was if you have to pick 2 top players from the current PSL. So
Yeah, batting we are struggling. You probably, most of the people followed PSL. I believe it's one of the most watched event in the Pakistan television history. Amazing. But batting we are struggling a bit. We haven't seen any good talent in batting in PSL, like big sixes, power hitting. It's got to do with our first class structure. Again, a first class structure is run by a journalist, an ex-journalist. So how will he know the psyche of cricket? He might be a good administrator, but cricketing decisions he can't make because he doesn't know. So it comes up to the basics, and basics is first class structure is struggling.
I'll come back, Ji.
My name is Jawad Naqvi. I'm a government servant. There is one question from my side and one question will be asking from my daughter.
Ji.
What had been your motivation all these years, and apart from all these perks and privileges which you had been having? And now to my daughter.
Kids nowadays are becoming lethargic due to the competition in education and hence aren't doing sports and are getting diseases like diabetes. What do you think should be the kids' routines nowadays?
I suppose it's not their fault. There's so many distractions nowadays. You have an iPad, you have these Xboxes, you have mobile phones now with games, internet. In our times, there was only gulli danda ya bante, cricket, or go out and play. That was it. There wasn't, there was one TV channel, I suppose, black and white. हमें पता भी नहीं था बचपन में कि टीवी कोई चीज़ भी होता है. So I think it's not this generation's fault either, but I suppose it's parents, they should make sure their kids should play sport certain time during the day because they need activity, especially when they're young. और आपका दूसरा question क्या था वो मैं भूल गया हूँ. Perks का कुछ था.
What was your motivation? What drove you?
Generally, I'm a very I motivate myself. I want to be success. I was sitting with someone other day, professional, and she said, what you want to achieve in life? Haven't you achieved everything? I'm just never satisfied with myself. Simple. I want to do better, more, different things. One day I will retire and chill, but I don't think so I'm a chilling kind of person. I'm always be on my toes.
And I think that's the key. You can't be satisfied with yourself. I'm seeing another person sitting in the audience, Dr. Ataur Rahman, as an example, pride of this country. He never settles for what he has achieved. And legends like Wasim, they don't. They just set their next goal. If not in cricket field, in commentating field. If not in commentating field, in analyzing field. In something else. Maybe modeling as well.
Yeah, doing
You
quite
did-
a bit.
you did modeling too.
Still at my tender age. Yeah.
See? So, okay. Yeah, question from there. I'll just take 2 more questions because we'll have to close.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amar Malik. I'm from S&P Global. My question is that when I look at the current Pakistani team and compare it to the 90s team,
Yeah.
I think we actually have more talent. The difference that I see is our inability to handle pressure. You look at what happened in Australia recently, or what always happens in Australia. You look at our World Cup matches against India. It's never our talent or our inability to play the game, but our inability to handle pressure that always seems to let us down. Why do you think that is? In fact, if you compare our current team with the Indian team, there's no difference of talent, but they don't let pressure get to themselves, we do. Why do you think that is suddenly a problem, and how can that be overcome?
There's a system in place in India. So they are 100% sure these are the playing 14, maybe 1 or 2 changes. Over here, things change dramatically. The opinion or the selection, I think now we have one of the best chief selectors who's a strong boy in Zamamul Haq. Mentally, physically to strong hai bhi hai, but mentally bhi strong hai wo. Because he's not going to listen to anyone. First 6 months, he listened to the captain and the coach, because that's what I would do as well. And then he realized it's not working. So he gave on this tour the young boys. But again, these are young guys, and nowadays, whatever happened, that controversy in 2010, and now in PSL, they get monitored 24/7 kind of thing. They don't have the freedom to express themselves off the field, on the field. They have to be back in the hotel at 10 o'clock. They can't go to each of the rooms after 10 o'clock. It's like glorified prison. So how are they going to evolve as a person? So until you evolve as a person, you're confident as a person, it will show what you do in life, including cricket, including corporate world. So confidence matters. Ability is very much there. Talent is there, I agree. But I think where the lack is a bit of confidence and consistency.
And any successful person must learn to handle pressure. And that comes with being in different situations at different times and not running away from it, but facing it and dealing with it. I have a question from young lady somewhere.
Right here.
Right here. Yes, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum, Wasim. How are
Hi,
you doing?
Assalamualaikum.
I just wanted to go off the question that was asked you earlier. What are you contributing to the cricket of Pakistan? I was a part of the PSL for the first time this year. I was working with ITW, who was working with the talent management there. And what I saw is that a lot of the cricketers don't have a personal development or brand development that is working with them and trying to figure out what kind of words they should be using or how they should be carrying themselves. And you yourself have achieved that. So I feel like to build something for them to get training would be something really nice to look into. What do you think?
I think, like I said, I'm there to help, but somebody has to ask me. There's a very good example in Urdu, कि कुआं घोड़े के पास नहीं आता, घोड़ा कुएं के पास जाता है. यही example है ना, मैं गलत तो नहीं कह दी? क्या?
Wait, so should we?
Something like that, yeah. Along those lines.
Yeah, you can take the horse to the water.
So
you
if
can't make
PCB
it
asks me to help and mentor our young captain Sarfaraz or young guys what to do, I will help them, but they don't. So it's very difficult for me to go outside PCB gate with a play card saying, okay, please take my help.
I completely understand, and I feel like there needs to be an outside organization, not just PCB, who's doing that. So it needs to be for everyone, every cricketer who comes on board, instead of just like 1 or 2 people that you're mentoring personally.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, our boys are actually very humble, very good boys. They just need a bit of confidence, and I think they'll be world beaters. I have no doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to close here. Just like in business, you have vision. In sports, you have vision too. Just like in business, you have pressure. In sports, you have serious pressure. Just like in business, you must know how to handle success. In sports, you must know how to handle success. Just like in business, you fall down. In sports, you fall down harder. It's your ability to handle these things better, smarter, faster, speedier, which makes you Wasim Akram. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you, Wasim.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wasim Akram. Stay there if you would for one moment. We're going to wait for our next guest of honor to come and join us.
Okay, sure.
And hopefully any moment soon, we will have we'll have the next stage, the final closing chapter of this 2-day event, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to invite the former captain to join us, inshallah. Any moment now. If it happens. Where is John?